How many, that's all, are we all like families here? Is there individuals came by yourself? 1, 2, no. You have a family somewhere? Not here. You're top. Are you a Rogers? No. Tracy. I met a Rogers who has the same kind. Oh no, that's you. Okay. I'm so sorry. You have roughly the same kind of shirt on, sort of. Are we noodling on purpose or? Okay. Does let's see. So the rest of the crowd is families. Is that? Okay. Well, if you're here by yourself, thank you for coming, sir. What's your name?
Stan.
Stan. Everybody needs to welcome Stan. Are you a musician, Stan?
I have my trumpet in the car, but they said don't bring it in until the talent show. I don't have any talent, so that's at the house.
Well, if it makes any difference, Stan, we were part of a fellowship years and years ago. Mom and I were in college at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, and we were part of a church fellowship where we would come together on Sunday morning, and there were different people in the congregation who had musical skills, and they would bring their instruments, and it was a lot more what I would consider sort of authentic, if I can be so bold, authentic worship, where everyone was joining in the production of music, whether we were singing or some people in the gathering would just play their instrument. We had a fellow who had a small little trumpet thing, and he played it, and had tambourines and flutes, and then there was a group of people who were kind of responsible for. Anyway, I love that model, so feel free to join in.
And I have a CD too.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not promoting it though.
Well, there's plenty of room to set the table up over there, Steve. Okay, so I was just doing a survey of the community to make sure everybody's in the right place. How many of the families here would consider yourself, I guess, maybe beginner? You're searching. You're not quite sure what the right pathway is, or you're just getting started, and maybe you're trying some stuff, but it's at least interesting to figure out new ways to cultivate music in the home. Could you raise your hand high if that's you? Okay. I want to make sure that we're speaking to people, because it's the Homeschool Music Festival, right? Is that what we're at?
Yep.
Family Band Fest.
Well, you were close.
Some of the same.
Family bands are mostly homeschoolers, I'm just saying. This is pretty much right there. Okay, but Family Band Fest. So I would sort of think that Family Band Festival, there wouldn't be all that many people interested in how to do what they've already been doing, you know. But it sounds like there's enough folks here that we can go ahead and press down that road. Cultivating music in the home. So let me ask a question. Does $1,000 seem a little high for an instrument? Like, if your child said, Dad, I want to play guitar, would you be okay to go out and buy a $1,000 guitar? Be honest. I'm seeing a couple no's here. No? Okay. Did you ask him how much it cost? Oh, okay. Fair enough. He says 2,000. That's 2 thumbs up there. Okay, so let's, what are we paying for lessons right now? What did we charge at the store? It was $30?
$50 or $30.
50 an hour, right?
Yeah.
Or 30 for a half hour, I think so. Okay, $30 for a half hour every week, times 50, take a couple weeks off of vacation, 1 year, spent $1,500. People don't tend to do the math, but that's really the way you do it. A couple of years now, you got $3,000 in a child who's been playing a junk instrument, blaming it on himself because it won't work right, and finally puts it in the corner because he can't do it. I don't know what the statistics are, folks, but I'm just saying, y'all are seriously late. I'm just kidding. Does everybody know these folks? You stand up and introduce yourself.
We are the friends of Roberts and Sykes, and we are from Stillwater, Vermont. We're happy to be here.
Okay. Are you musicians or you want to be musicians?
I want to be a musician.
Thank you, sir. What's your first name?
Hey,
Caleb? With a C? He's Caleb. So you guys can.
We'll fight later.
So back to the math. You spent $3,000. Your child now doesn't really like music because music hasn't been fun for him or her because, guess what? The instrument was the problem. I can tell you that because almost everything that I'm going to present is a mistake that I made. That somehow the Lord was kind and gracious and showed us my mistake, and we were able to correct it relatively quickly. So when my first son, Jared, was 6 years old, I had been playing music since I was 14, so he was 697. I was about 31 years old. I've been playing since I was 14 years old, strumming the guitar. By the time I was 18 or so, I was able to pretty much keep up with most music. Like if I heard a song, I could probably try to, recreate the chords, and I could do pretty decent. Like I was a decent, what you call sort of rhythm guitarist. And then I began my journey in the Lord, which I highly recommend everybody consider. If you do not know the Lord Jesus, then at least consider, ask the universal creator God to at least, if he's even there, show himself to you, and you will have an amazing life like I have enjoyed since I was 18 years old. And I began that process of transitioning my music, which was then country and rock and roll, into things that honored and glorified God. And so I became, at some point, a leader of worship music in churches. Then I got married, started having children, and about, 10 years later or so, found myself in Orlando, Florida, on a business trip, and I was thinking it's about time for, sorry, got myself back up there. About a year or so before this business trip, I had said, it's about time for Jared to start learning how to play guitar, because we can do that. So I went to the music store and I bought him a $99, I think it was $99. It was no more than $99, because I'm cheap. Guitar, and I brought it home, and I tuned it up. And we started in the key of A, because I'm mean. And, well, actually it turned out for little hands, starting in the key of A is a little better because everything's grouped together, and then D is also kind of grouped together, and then E is also kind of grouped together. So it actually worked out better. Just a technical thing there. But, because if you start in the key of C like everybody does, your fingers are all stretched out and it's hard. So, just saying. We started in the key of A, and I taught him, Jesus loves me. Can you play in the key of A? Just start. And then I came home the day after from work. I'm like, hey, how's the guitar going? He's like, it doesn't sound good. And he said something like, I don't know how to do it. It doesn't, whatever. And so I tuned the guitar. And he did fine. And then I came home the next day and it doesn't sound good. Like, this is getting annoying. So fast forward, that problem continued. And he wasn't really interested as much. He wasn't practicing, wasn't using it for creative things because it wasn't working for him. And he was saying, it's my fault. Now, about a year down the road, I got to a business trip in Orlando, Florida, and there was a place called George's Music, and I happened to have my evening free, so I went to the music store, which was kind of fun, and up on the wall was a Baby Taylor guitar. And Baby Taylor guitars are what they call a 3/4 size. It's just perfect for a 6, 7-year-old. And it's built well. But that thing cost $300. With a hard shell case. I thought, well, it's a good deal. That'd be great for my travel guitar. And so I bought it, and I came home and I'm like, hey, check this out. I've finally got a guitar that'll fit in the overhead compartment and people won't be fussing at me. I couldn't take my guitar on trips. And then so I was really excited, and Jared walked over to his guitar. He picks it up, and he starts playing Jesus Loves Me like he knows how to play. And I'm just telling you, like this overwhelming sense of repentance and remorse came over me because I was the cheap one. It was keeping my son back from doing the thing that he loved because of a stupid instrument. Because I wasn't willing to spend the money. I can't tell you. I don't know what the return on that investment is. I can't measure it. I do some investing here and there, and I'm interested in that kind of thing. I'm a business person, and so I like to think about returns on investment. I can't measure this one, but I can tell you it's more than any money could ever measure. Taking that, so I repented, and I gave that boy that guitar, and he started playing guitar. And now he's an amazing musician. He's a father and a computer programmer and an engineer, and so that's not the only thing he does, but he makes really great music, and he's got a great ear for it. And wouldn't you say Jared's pretty talented on that stuff?
Yes.
So he doesn't travel with us now. He's almost 33 years old. Some folks hang around forever. I don't know what we would do without these guys. I just had more fun with them. But anyway, so from that point, I realized, it doesn't matter what it costs. It doesn't matter what it costs. But it's going to cost thousands. So just get used to it. Okay? Now, I say that, not everything. Guitars tend to be higher on the price tag. You can get decent fiddles for under $1,000, but you're going to pay close to that. And the better, the higher. Banjos are going to be in the thousands. Mandolins in the thousands, Caleb was the 2010, when he was 15 years old, the 2010 Ohio mandolin champion. So he won a mandolin, which helped. And anyway, the point is you're going to spend a lot of money, but it's not anywhere near as much money as you're going to spend on lessons that fall completely on deaf ears and difficult fingers and hands, because it's the instrument that's the problem, not the student. So that's the first lesson. If you can take that. The other part about that is, if you actually spend good money on a good instrument, if at some point your child says, I'm not really all that interested in this instrument, you can sell the instrument for about as much as you paid for it, because it will hold its value. If you buy the $99 instrument, you will use it to start a fire.
Well, and sometimes the good ones actually go up.
That's right. You can actually have appreciation. If you happen to live in a country where they give free money away when people get sick, and everybody has more money than they have cents, and they don't want to spend it, they will raise the price of everything. I'm just saying. Was that a political statement? Sorry. Let me go back. So that's the first one. 750. My outline says 750. It's 1,000 now. It was 750. Inflation. Okay, so that's the first of a three-legged stool that your instrument or your instruction home music stool can stand on. Quality instrument. The other ones are instruction and time with other people. You got those three things? Good quality instrument, good instruction, time with people. You'll have a good stool that your family music can stand on. So let's talk about instruction for just a second. How many here are paying for lessons for their kids? Raise them up, real proud. How many of those lessons are for beginner instruction? Okay, one. That's great. Normally, what we're seeing is that people pay a lot of money for the young child to get instruction from an expert. I'd like to encourage you that, at least from our point of view, that's mostly a waste of your money. There are fantastic video instruction tools and resources. And this is the case way before YouTube. Like, we learned this back in 1997 or something, when somebody handed me a VHS video called Beginning Banjo. And I had a banjo in my room that my father gave me when I was 18 years old. And I never learned how to play the thing. Anybody ever tried to use the books with the words and the little tab things and all that? And I got this young man. I said, yes. Could we agree on something? If I ever ask a question of the crowd, would you do me the huge favor of like responding enthusiastically? If it's true, raise your hand big. Don't hold back. I need to know. Okay? What I did was I got the book about the banjo, and I had the banjo, and it taught me how you could read the words that teach you how to tune the banjo, right? Unless you had an absolute reference, like a piano or something, you had to do it by relative bit. But you could do it, like you could tune one string and then make the next string at this fret sound like the other string, and you could go down through that whole thing, and at the end you could strum it, it would kind of sound okay. And then you could read the page and say, okay, so you do this and this. First you pluck this string, and then you pluck this string, and then you put your finger here. And look, you can read, and you can do all that. And when you're done, because I'm not a bad student. I mean, I'm okay with reading stuff and figuring out from the book how to get stuff done. That's a reasonable way to transfer knowledge. We're talking about music here, y'all. And it just doesn't work like that. Like, when you're done doing that, you can follow the lesson precisely, and when you're done, you are not going to sound like Earl Scruggs. I don't know if you can even do that now, but yeah. I was going to say demo what it would sound like if you were just following the book. Can you even do that?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to hear that.
Anyway, so I did that, and I had the same issue that my little boy had when he was 6 years old. I set the thing in the closet, and it had rusty strings. case. And I went to the closet and I got that thing out. And I said, because we're homeschoolers. And I don't know, y'all probably do a good job. Our approach to schooling was, here's a book. Let me know if you have any questions. So I did. I was like, here's this video. Here's a banjo. I'll see you tonight. I got home. That kid was playing the banjo. It wasn't just plunking at the banjo. He was playing a song on the banjo. I'm like, what happened? He said, well, I just watched the video and followed the lesson. I'm like, give me that thing. So the next morning, I happened to have a job where I had some freedom about my schedule, and so I stayed home a little bit in the morning, and I watched that video, and within 1 hour, I was playing a song on the banjo. I cannot emphasize this enough. By ear, video instruction for beginners beats all the money you want to spend on instructors for young or beginning students. And then once I was involved, then it became a contest, which is another aspect that we'll talk about in a little bit. But the lesson I learned there was we don't have to make it hard. We just have to give them really good resources. And so now we got quality instruction and quality instruments. The only other thing that was left was time with other people, because as it turns out, we found out, not at our home, because I already knew how to play music, and so as my children were learning how to play, we would play together, and that was very naturally teaching them how to keep time. But if you are not skilled in music and you're encouraging your children to be skilled in music, and your first one starts playing and they get off time, guess what? They don't know that they're off time. They're playing what they think is right, and it's not. And then as soon as they get into a group where there's actually a beat, and there's actually, there's every note is supposed to show up in a particular place, and then they are missing one because they forgot, when they learned the song, they missed that one, and they've been practicing for 2 months on this song, and it's missing a note because nobody taught them that it was wrong. Now they're frustrated again. And they're like, I can't do it. No, it's not that you can't do it, it's that you didn't have anybody helping you along to overcome those little speed bumps. So that's the third thing, is spend time with other people early and often. So high quality instrument, by ear instruction from whatever resource you want. Pay for it if you want, but you don't really have to pay all that much. And then time with other people. Once you got that music machine will start to work. Now then, we can offer a few tips on how to accelerate it. The first one, the most important one as far as I'm concerned, is Mom and Dad. I know it's hard. Actually, no, I don't know it's hard, because I just don't know how that feels. But a lot of people have told me it's really hard when you think you don't know how to play music, to be vulnerable and try. But I can promise you, if you're willing to try, if you're willing to be vulnerable, set your pride aside and just spend some time focusing, on developing a new skill for your own life. It'll make you a better person and give you the ability to express yourself in ways that you've never been able to express yourself before. If you're willing to pick up a fiddle, or a banjo, or a guitar, or a mandolin, or a trumpet, and make some noise, here's the magic of it. Your children will not let you be better than them. I'm not kidding. You want your child to develop a skill in music? Develop one yourself. And it'll be a contest. I can't tell you how quickly that banjo thing accelerated when I actually got the thing and said, okay, I know how to play banjo in the Hall. Can you play it? No. Do it like you did it. That wasn't part of it. So I said, give me that thing. I was thinking, where's the bass? But there it is. Okay, hold on. I'll tell you when to come in. This is another thing. This has more to do with just how music's supposed to sound. But that is the most important instrument in the room. Right there, just let you know. But don't go in. Let's do this one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, you get my point. So I don't know if you heard it or not, but you can play music kind of with these instruments, and it sounds okay. But as soon as you add that, the room fills up. Right? We got a whole separate thing we call the Concert and History of American Roots Music, CHARM. We teach it in the public schools, and trying to help folks understand that everybody has a place, right? And the reason that these instruments are typically chosen the way they are is because they fill a space in the musical spectrum. And it's astounding what happens in a gymnasium when you start with a fiddle on the porch. Can you do that? Do Angela and Baker or something. You don't have to be fancy about this. Just close your eyes and kind of imagine you're on a mountain somewhere in western Virginia, and the sun's gone down and you're just hanging out before you go to bed, and you get your fiddle out. And the music's kind of going out there into the hills and hollers, and your neighbor hears it and they're enjoying it too. And then, keep going. Keep going here. And then walks up somebody. They just recently came in from Europe. Actually, probably somewhere off the coast of Africa. Not Europe. I know my elements, I'm sorry. And they've got this weird thing that looks like it's got a hide on it, and it's got some strings, and they start kind of plunking around with it. It's too fancy, Timothy. They didn't do it like that. And now there's a little bit of music going on. Somebody gets interested, and they got this thing they call a guitar. Somebody starts. Then some crazy person decided to take a fiddle and make the strings tighter and hook it on something that kind of looked a little different. And they called it a mandolin. They put 2 strings instead of 1 in every place. And that guy shows up on the porch. And then they start going, hey, I've got a melodic thing I'd like to do.
I'm sorry.
A melodic thing. I want to play a little reed. So that guy with the crazy instrument pops up and he starts playing it. Wasn't that fancy? Yeah. And the guitar says, hey, I think I can do that too. Just makes you want to break your fingers. Way off in the distance, somebody heard that. They've got this big thing that mostly stays in the house because they can't really take it very far, but they're inspired. And they hear all this music going up on the porch, and they drag that thing down the holler for a mile. And they climb themselves up the mountain to the porch and set that thing up, and everybody goes, what are you going to do with that? And then this starts coming out. And that's how you cultivate music in the home. You know? Just start without making all the mistakes we made. Get good instruments. Invest in quality by ear instruction. let them love music. Because it's something that folks don't seem to think a lot about. Maybe we're in the right crowd where you all would say, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense to us, but it's not very common. In fact, it's very uncommon in the, what do you might call it, average American. Folks will say, well, I'm going to wait and see whether little Johnny has an interest in music, and if he does, then I'll invest in it. That is a almost fatal mistake almost all the time. It will kill their love for music like nothing else. And it'll lose you a lot of money. It's not a good investment strategy. Buy what you need so that the music doesn't hinder, or so that the instrument doesn't hinder. And then if little Johnny isn't interested in a guitar, and then do the other thing we did, which is get lots of them. Don't just get one. Get 6 or 7. Get every one of them. And make it like a huge pomp and circumstance, dragging them through the house. You come home from the store, and you're like, look at all these instruments I've got. And they're all going, I can't wait. And you're like, don't touch these things. Put them under the bed. I can guarantee they'll come out from under the bed. I'm just kidding. No, if your children are well trained, they will not touch them because you told them not to. Don't do that. Make them freely available. Encourage them. When little Jenny says, I'm getting tired, she won't probably tell you, right? Because she doesn't want to disappoint you. Like your mom, your dad, you're encouraging them to play music. She's not going to say, well, I don't really. She's just going to quietly walk in the bedroom and get out the fiddle and play around with it for a little bit. And she's going to fall in love with one of them. Almost sure. When she does that, she's got one that is really igniting her passion, then guess what else happens? She says to herself, I wonder if I could do that on the mandolin. And she'll put the fiddle down for a minute, and she'll walk over to the mandolin, which won't fight her because you spent good money on it, and it's a quality instrument, and it stayed in tune. And when she pulls it out, she doesn't have to worry about it, and she's going to pick that thing up and start playing the same thing that she did on the fiddle on the mandolin, because guess what? They're tuned exactly the same. And now she's going to be a multi-instrumentalist. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can use the human factor. And once one of them is doing it, the other is going to get interested or jealous, however you want to play that card. And they're going to want to do it too. How did that work in the Russell family? Did you guys have any competition between the kids a little bit? No?
I'd say less competition, but more just excitement and well, I take that back a little.
Brian's confirming with you there.
But I would say a lot of it, I remember hearing this talk the first time, and when you talked about how, because I was concerned about them getting too many instruments going, but what you said is when they would play, for instance, the fiddle, and then pick up the mandolin, that their fiddle playing would actually accelerate, and I know Blaine found that to be true because the chordings on the mandolin that you can see, then you can do that on the fiddle.
Yeah.
So it don't stop.
That's a really great point. I hadn't even thought about that, but when you're playing the mandolin, you're playing all of the chords all of the notes in a chord, and you can see them visually, and you're like, okay, this is tuned the same, so all those notes must be valid on the fiddle. Let me go play that now. And it just becomes more advanced. You accelerate your skill set. So that's another one that you can do to help out. And then I guess the time with others, it's pretty amazing what happens when, playing with the brothers and sisters is one thing. Get out and play with other people. Like we're going to be, I guess there's going to be some jamming and stuff today. Can you do me a favor? Don't do what happens so often in the festival crowds that we see a lot where, don't be that person. I mean, I understand there are different levels of skills. And the people who have advanced skills, they like to get together and play creatively in ways that it's just not possible with beginning players. There will be plenty of those opportunities. If you have a really high advanced skill in an instrument and you want to participate with others doing that, you'll have plenty of opportunities to do that. But make it your vision, make it your goal when you're in public crowds and you're participating with other people maybe that you don't know, strangers. Welcome the little ones. Be the one who embraces the beginners. And make it like it's not about you. I promise you, there will be plenty of opportunities for you to express yourself and develop your advanced skill set. But when a little one wants to come along and learn from you, make them so happy about what they're doing that it's not even anything about you. It's like your whole goal is to help them develop. I can't even express how grateful I am to the people who did that for my kids. When they were little, when Jared had just started with his banjo, and we went to this thing called a bluegrass jam, and we didn't even know what it was. I don't even know what that is. It's people get together. So on a Saturday, and somebody organized this deal, and a bunch of folks came together with their instruments, and they had breakfast, and then played music for 3 or 4 hours. And it was a fairly decent-sized circle. And I would say, hey, Jared, that guy right over there, he seems like he knows how to play banjo a little bit. And I would go over and introduce myself and say, you look like you know what you're doing. We don't know what we're doing. Would you be willing to help? Would you mind spending some time with my son and show him some stuff? And, you know, it's amazing. People we love to share what we have, you know, especially the older ones love to, they're chomping at the bit for opportunities to pour into people. And the culture is sidelining them. Give them an opportunity to demonstrate something, and they will. The pinnacle of this example of this concept came at one of those meetings. We did that for several months, and one month, this guy shows up. He's got like this scraggly old beard. It's clear that he's disadvantaged, right? The hair hadn't been cleaned in I don't know how long. Had a little bit of a smell to him. He brought his fiddle. He had his pants, his belt for his pants was a motorcycle chain. And he had one of those wallets like here with the big long, chain. He was like, he'd come from that crowd, rough crowd. He had at least 3 teeth, for sure. And I'm making light of it, but I'm just saying, this fellow was rough. But he'd heard that there was some music going on. He brought his fiddle. And you guys remember him? He played his fiddle down here. He played his fiddle down here. But he actually played fiddle. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call him an advanced. He played the best fiddle he could for, what he had. And I went to him and I said, would you be willing to, because I see you know some things that my son Ben doesn't know how to do. Would you be willing to share? This guy lit up like a Christmas tree. He was not expecting somebody to actually be interested in something he had. Like the culture has been telling him that he's not worth anything forever, And all of a sudden somebody says, hey, you've got something that I would love to participate in. And he became interested. And Ben spent some time with him, and they kind of learned together. It was really a cool experience. So that time of taking the kids out and spending time with other people like you're doing here at the Family Band Festival is fantastic. If you have an instrument you're here, get it out today. There's some jammings going on. And if you know how to play, welcome the little ones. Now, don't dumb it down. I'm not saying dumb it down. Expect folks to improve, right? Call people out. If they're off time, call them out. Say, well, it doesn't go like that, it goes like this. But let them express and do it in a way where they feel like they're safe and they can learn. You'll see the level of your musical skill set rise in this community like that fast. So that's most of what I've got for today. I would like to spend some time, if anybody has any questions, we'd like to spend some time answering that. Otherwise, I'm done. Yes, ma'am.
So you have lots of money when you find all these instruments, right? You just have piles of money that you're spending.
Good question.
Okay, that's a really, really good question. Gosh, Maris, put me on the spot.
You trade off lessons for the instruments.
Yeah.
The lessons were so expensive. We decided to get the beginner lessons for the video, which is much less expensive.
Did everybody hear what my wife just shared? That's the primary answer. She said we traded the lesson expense for an instrument, and then we invested in a $30 video, which, by the way, and Caleb and Abby, Liberty probably did a little teaching. I don't know, Olivia, did you do any teaching at the store? You did. I think they'll all tell you, the beginner students get maybe 2 minutes of actual instruction in 30. Am I off on that? Maybe 2 minutes. The remaining 28 is just reviewing stuff that you did the last time. And it's part of our culture, I have to admit. Right now, our culture is that the children are not held to a very high standard in the first place. There's not a lot expected of young people anymore. There was a time in our history where a 10-year-old boy could run the farm and was expected to be able to do so when Dad went to town. That's not the case anymore. I'm just being real frank with y'all. Our culture is not the same. But even so, young children now, when they come in for lessons, get maybe 2-3 minutes of actual new instruction. You pay them $30 for 3 minutes. You can pay $30 for one video and just hit rewind and get it for free. Right? So it's really not a great investment. Now, at some point, your kids are going to develop the skill to the point where they have really good questions to ask. Like, the video doesn't have the answer. Now you need an instructor. But that's a few years before they get to that point. And in a few years, you can save $3,000 on lessons and put it into a good
You
instrument.
sacrifice other things to make them sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
What's the video resource that you recommend?
At the time, I would still recommend them, but at the time, one of the few that we had access to was something called the Murphy Method. Murphy Henry is an instructor, musician out of Virginia, and she was an early producer of this resource for what we call by ear. It's just, let's be real frank, and she wouldn't be offended if I said it's redneck, right? Including the Virginia twang, it's all there. But it's like the cloth backdrop and the camera and the lighting is terrible, but she'll lead you through the process of banjo and holler in a way where you're going to learn how to play banjo when you're done. And the same with the fiddle videos, guitar, whatever. So Murphy method. Do we have those? We don't have a lot of the beginning ones in. Yeah. We used to be a reseller for her stuff, but now that there's so much on YouTube, and you can buy a subscription to Banjo Ben for.
I've never bought one.
25 a month.
25, you got Banjo Ben? There you go. 25 a month, and I think that's like the entire catalog, right? Yeah. And just to be perfectly frank, Banjo Ben's they're connected to Banjo Ben because Abby used to play with Katie and Penny, who are Ben's sisters. So there's a connection here, but so we love what he's doing. But you can, especially at the beginning stages, you can find stuff on YouTube for free. But Murphy is a great one. Banjo Ben's a great one. There's a bunch more that are like that. But whichever one it is, if you're paying attention, you're going to get 2 to 5 minutes on the video, and then just stop because because we're not going to get more than that session. But the point there is, if you can sacrifice the instruction stuff, focus on the by ear videos, then you have enough time for the instrument. There's more to it. I would love to have the time to have a completely separate sidebar discussion about managing finances for families. It's a terrible epidemic we have in our culture right now about how people manage money. And it plays into this issue. I know it seems completely separate, like I'm going off in a totally different direction, but it is absolutely critically related. The fact that we don't have any resources financially has a lot to do with what kind of choices we make early on and how those choices have consequences down the road. I would love to have that, but that's a...
And I think time is the same way, because I don't have time. Where's your time going?
Mhm.
Is it video games? Is it scrolling or whatever? Are we trading or?
Yep. Yeah, the beautiful thing about music, and I don't want to lose the crowd here, but it's a philosophical thing. Bear with me for just a second, but the beautiful thing about music is once you have it, it just returns over and over and over again. It's like there's an infinite well of returns on your musical investment for the rest of your life that you never have to pay ever again. You only have to invest initially. And then you get it, and it's yours, and you get to pour it out. It's like you got this pitcher of music that never runs out once you fill it up. So from an investment point of view, it's so huge. If you can overcome the hurdles, and hopefully some of the things that we shared today will help you avoid those mistakes. But you'll fill your home with music if you encapsulate some of these ideas. Yes, sir.
How do you make time or structured time for regular playing together and practicing together? Working through new stuff and making sure everybody knows it and all of that. How does the mechanics of making it all work together after you're together?
I think the families do that differently. Like, I would be interested to hear Caleb's perspective on that versus Abby's perspective.
I was about ready to say, Caleb, you answer this question. We didn't, it was terrible. We did it. I mean, we did, but we had no plan. Like, somehow we
what to say about that. There was times where we would go months without touching our instruments. That's just a reality. All of us kids did that, and there was times the band didn't play together for months. I think the point that was accentuated to us was if you don't enjoy it, there's no point in driving it into a person. So I think we focused on making sure that if we came together to play, we enjoyed it and it was fun for us. And that was another part that really helped us develop. But did we structure it out? No. I don't think we
Well,
did
you
that.
guys knew that you were gonna play the same songs and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, we did do a show one time where we performed a song that we got to the end of and nobody clapped. And I will say that upped the urgency for us to practice. So, you could do that if you want. But Abby has a totally different story with her family.
Yeah, my dad was very structured and he was very, he wanted to be prepared whatever we were doing. So we literally practiced every day as a group and then on our own separately throughout the day. But we'd start out, we'd wake up, have our Bible time, have breakfast, and then practice. And then from there, we dispersed a little bit. But it was a daily thing. I mean, I didn't burn out as some of my siblings did.
Would you say getting ready to play somewhere would give you more reason
Yeah.
to
Yeah, definitely. That was the primary thing that happened. Where if we knew that people were going to be counting on us to deliver something, then we have a sort of a moral responsibility to make sure that we deliver what people, expect. It's only right. Don't come unprepared. But I would say,
Or even if we're going to cut records.
yeah, if we're going to do an album, then we're practicing for that. Now, in the middle of all that, I don't want, the last thing I want to do is not give God glory where he deserves, he deserves it all the time. But there are special things that I can think of where I couldn't have, I guess I could, but it didn't occur to me or whatever. The Lord just made things available. For instance, we played a festival that was attended by a fellow, no, he was an MC, and he ran a radio show in Syracuse, New York. And he said, hey, I want you to come down to the radio station and play a thing we're going to do a television spot. And so we did that. And in the crowd at the television program we did that time, there was a fellow by the name of John Rossbach. And Mr. Rossbach was connected in the musical community. He had a lot of background. He's an instrumentalist too. He played mandolin mostly, right? And guitar and stuff. But he had this wealth of information and understanding about musical structure. And he said, he came to me, he said, I want to help you. He said, I see something there, I would like to help you do better. Think about when somebody says, I want to help you do better, what they're really saying is, you're not that great. But you could be. And so, rather than say, I don't really know you, whatever, I say, fantastic, let's get together. We'd love to do that. And so Mr. Rossbach began, him and his wife, Joyce and Bub, they began a mostly weekly pilgrimage to Remsen, New York, where every Tuesday, I think it was, evening, they would show up and have supper together, and then me and the kids and John would spend time learning about the nuances of the music we're playing. For instance, something that he taught us really important I never quite knew how to articulate it. I wasn't even sure what it was, but I knew it was missing. John showed us about what we call fills. When you're playing a song that's got rhythm backup and somebody's singing, well, their voices are, they have, when you're singing a verse, the verse has lines. Well, at the end of a line, there's maybe a little bit of a pause. In the pause, one of the other instruments comes in and throws just a little something in. And the listener is now, getting more value out of the song. That concept of fills was a big thing. He taught us about that. But I couldn't have come up with that. There was no way I could structure it and say, we're going to learn about fills now. The Lord just gave us a person at the right time. And I believe when we yield our music to God, and we say, we just want to do what you want, and use this however you want to use it, then He will. He will do everything He promised, and He did. All that said, I want to get back to questions, but while we're here, we'll make this point too. One of the things we learned early on was how the music industry is kind of a Shark Tank. And if you show some promise, it won't be long before people are starting to find ways to potentially get a piece of you. And I am so grateful to the Lord for just showing me that there was danger there. And the thing about danger is you don't have to be afraid of it. There's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. Fear has torment. He who fears is not made perfect in love. That's what God told us. We don't have to be afraid, but we're in danger. And so we need to, be circumspect and understand the environment and what that meant for us. And I think other people might have a different response to it. But for us, what we said was, we're not going to make this about the money. Because that seems to be the thing. Like, that's what everybody's trying to do is, make a profit on it somehow. We're not interested in making it about the money. You need money to go down the road. That silly bus back there costs a lot to go from place to place. But God knows all that. And He's got ways of, He can go, if He needs to, He'll just go fishing. He'll give me what I need. But not being motivated that way helped us to avoid a lot of the, what's the word I want? Pitfalls. I'm thinking, no. When you're enticed into something, there's what's the word I want? Temptations. Thank you. Temptation. I'm 58, and memories starting to. I used to know that word. Anyway, avoid the temptations, and I'll just be very frank. Man, there are so many families that we've watched who somehow or other got interested in potentially becoming something, And there are amazing people. Wonderful, God-fearing people. They got chewed up and spit out. So just don't do that. If the Lord builds the house, except the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain to build it. But if God builds the house, it will do exactly what He intended. And I'm looking back on our journey, which is now we're in our 21st year. We started in 2003. I'm looking back on those 21 years and saying there were times where we could have broken out, whatever that might look like. But the Lord saw fit to, as I look back, protect us. And so we've enjoyed a tremendous journey. And there's nothing quite like the effect that music has on a family when they are not trying to do something more than God wants to do with it. If all we ever did was fill our home with music to allow us to worship the Lord more freely and more fully, would be enough for me. But I can tell you this also, that if you're, I heard this recently, we're reading a book, and this person has got this system for helping companies do certain things. And one person in the room, he was at this presentation, and this person says, I don't think that'll work for my company. And he says, okay, interesting. Does your company have people in it? And he's like, yeah. He said, well, then this will work for your company. I'm saying, if your family has people in it, what I'm about to tell you is almost surely going to be true. You're going to be playing some music, and one person's going to have one idea, and one person's going to have a different idea. And they both want what they want. Let's check, they're smiling. Okay, we got one honest group down here. How about Pearl Gracie come out? The Williamses out here, see what that going? A little bit of family dynamic, sort of. Russells?
No.
No, you guys, perfect harmony, right? Once your family is in discord and you start music, if they come together and they begin a song, not kidding, something happens. It's strange, but it's true. When the family has to line up on the beat and they have to come together in the harmony, all that stuff goes away. So I'm not saying it's not like a pill. You can say, okay, everybody's fighting, let's go play a song. It's not that. It's that when you are cultivating music in your home and you have that dynamic available to you, when you come together, you will feel that sense of, okay, maybe I can take a breath, maybe I can focus on this song, maybe we can have some joy. And at the end of it, you kind of forgot what you were fighting about, and now you're back together again. So that's another incredible benefit of cultivating music at home. That's pretty much the end of what I wanted to share.